madam. Yes, madam. It's a long time, almost 3 years back. I think I saw you.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes, madam. Very nice of you, madam.
No, that's fine.
I think they will start. I think, madam, they will start because it's now time. They will. Yes. I think Professor Tiwari and Mehta, you can start the program now.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining, sir.
Yes.
So, dear participants, welcome to Mizoram University for this webinar. And before we start, I would like to welcome our today's speaker, Professor J.K. Adam, Institutional Research Ethics Committee Chairperson, Department of Research and Postgraduate Support, Durban University of Technology. So before I hand over the session to Madam, I would like to give a brief introduction about the speaker. Professor Jamila K. Adam, DTech DUT, M.Med SC UN, BSc Honors UDW, HED UNISA. Professor Adam has obtained 60 research awards throughout her career. Her most recent awards include an International Fellowship Award, the Fellowship of the Association of Biotechnology and Pharmacy, which was awarded in December 2012 in recognition for her contribution for medical research. She received 3 DUT Research Awards for 2012, that is Top University Women Researcher, Top University Publisher of the Year, and Faculty Researcher of the Year. Her research publications include a book, 23 peer-reviewed journal articles, and 6 conference proceedings. She is a reviewer for 6 international journals, an editor for 2 international journals, and a reviewer for the National Research Foundation, NRF. Madam has supervised more than 340 BTech students and 45 PG students for research. Then Madam has so many range of specialization. So I would like to read out her specialization: clinical technology, and nephrology, neurophysiology, cardiology, pulmonology, and critical care and reproductive biology. And other than this, she also have research experience in the field of immunology, toxicology, microbiology, physiology, nutrition, histology, cytology, and medicinal properties of plants. Until 2013, Madam has been the Clinical Technology Program Coordinator, Chairperson for Faculty Research Committee and Departmental Research Committee. Professor Adam serves as Chairperson of Organizing Committee for the Institutional Research Day, Vice Chairperson of the Health Professional Council of South Africa, Radiography and Clinical Technology Board member of the Senate, Institutional Research Committee, Higher Degrees Committee, and MUT Ethics Committee. She is also the chairperson of the Institutional Research Ethics Committee at DUT. So it's our honor and pleasure that Madam, you have kindly consented to deliver this talk, and I'm very sure that our participants will find it very difficult. And before I request Madam, I would like to say a few words about our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, that because of his motivation, guidance, and support, we have been able to do so many of such activities. I think more than 200 we are reaching. And Madam, for now not taking much time between the participants and you, I would like to hand over the session to you kindly. Madam, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Tiwari, and for the introduction, and Professor Rao for actually inviting me. I'm really honored, and I hope I do a good job with this presentation, and everybody learns. With ethics and research, it's quite a big topic and intense topic, and it's very important that we all abide by it. I would just go over the presentation, and I'm going to, I don't want to waste much time, so I'll share the screen and then go over the presentation. Okay, let's go through the presentation. Is it okay? Can you people see the screen now?
Yes, Madam, it's quite okay.
Okay, that's okay. I was just wondering, I was worried about whether I'll be able to share it. Sometimes it just doesn't go through. But when I'm presenting, what I'll do is I will, because of the, internet and that kind of thing here, I will put the video off because with me, it might just not be clear and you might not be able to hear me. All right. Is it okay with you?
It's quite okay, madam. Sound and everything is okay. No problem.
Okay. Okay. Just the video. All right. Just, well, you know who I am and what I do, that kind of thing, right? The next slide. Okay, let's see if it goes. Oh. That's odd. No. Okay. I don't know why I didn't want to change. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little bit on the background and definition, then go on to the history of ethics in research and research ethical issues, a little bit on data management, research misconduct, research with animals, research with human participants, where I'll spend more time on, and ethics review guidelines, where I will spend more time on the last two aspects. Okay. If anyone wants to say anything and want to stop me at anywhere, I can't see any hands up because of, with my screen that I might just be able to see, I might not be able to see. But if I don't, then you can just interrupt and I will answer your questions. All right. Thank you. It's working. Right, just the definition, just a little bit on the definition. Research ethics provides guidelines for the responsible conduct of biomedical research. In addition, research ethics educates and monitors scientists conducting research to ensure a high ethical standard. We all know about it, but we have to abide by it as well. A little bit on the history of ethics. The birth of modern research ethics began with the desire to protect human subjects involved in research projects. The first attempt to craft regulations began during the doctor's trial of 1946-1947. That you can see it's the Second World War. The doctor's trial was a segment of the Nuremberg trials for Nazi war criminals. In the doctor's trial, just a little bit on the background, in the doctor's trial, 23 German Nazi physicians were accused of conducting disgusting and torturous experiments with concentration camp inmates. The accused physicians tortured, brutalized, crippled, and murdered thousands of victims in the name of research. Some of the experiments involved gathering scientific information about the limits of the human body by exposing the victims to extreme temperatures and altitudes. Others included malaria experiments, poison gas experiments, bone, muscle, and nerve regeneration experiments, bone transplantation experiments, saltwater consumption experiments, epidemic jaundice experiments, sterilization experiments, killing of Jews for anatomical research, and euthanasia of sick and disabled civilians. The most gruesome and destructive experiment of all was to see how quickly a human could be euthanized in order to carry out the Nazi racial purification policies most efficiently. Now, to prosecute these accused Nazi doctors for the atrocities they committed, a list of ethical guidelines for the conduct of research, the Nuremberg Code, was developed. The Nuremberg Code consists of 10 basic ethical principles that the accused violated. The 10 guidelines were as follows. Firstly, research participants must voluntarily consent to research participation. The research aims should contribute to good of society. Research must be based on sound theory and prior animal testing. Research must avoid unnecessary physical and mental suffering. No research projects can go forward where serious injury and or death are potential. No hands up. Okay, sorry, I thought there was a hands up. No research can go forward where serious injury or death are potential outcomes. The degree of risk taken with research partners cannot exceed anticipated benefits of results. Proper environment and protection for participants is necessary. Experiments can be conducted only by scientifically qualified persons. Human participants must be allowed to discontinue their participation at any time. Scientists must be prepared to terminate the experiment if there is a cause to believe that the continuation will be harmful or result in injury or death. The Nuremberg Code guidelines paved the way for the next major initiative designed to promote responsible research with human participants. This was the Helsinki Declaration. The Helsinki Declaration was developed by the World Medical Association and has been revised and updated periodically since 1964, with the last update occurring in 2000. The Helsinki Declaration contains all the basic ethical elements specified in the Nuremberg Code, but then advances further guidelines that are specifically designed to address the unique vulnerabilities of human participants, solicited participants in clinical research projects. The unique principles developed within the Helsinki Declaration include the following: the necessity of using an independent investigator to review potential research projects. Secondly, employing a medically qualified person to supervise the research and assume responsibility for the health and welfare of human participants. Thirdly, the importance of preserving the accuracy of results. And four, suggestions on how to obtain informed consent from research participants. It also contained rules concerning research with children and mentally incompetent persons, and evaluating and using experimental treatments on patients. And lastly, the importance of determining which mental situations and conditions are appropriate and safe for research. Following the Helsinki Declaration, the next set of research ethics guidelines came out was the Belmont Report of 1979. And from the National Commission for Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. The report outlines the following issues: the ethical principles for research with human participants. Secondly, the boundaries between medical practice and research. Thirdly, the concepts of respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. And application of these principles in informed consent, that is, respect for persons, assessing risks and benefits, that's beneficence, and subject selection, which is justice. With all those that we have, the guidelines that were provided, we had others that were added to these guidelines. And you can see this is a summary of what each one of them contained. The Nuremberg Code had directives for human experimentation. Declaration of Helsinki has ethical principles for medical research involving human subjects. The Belmont Report covered ethical principles and guidelines for protection of human subjects of research. The Council for International Organizations that came afterwards, Organizations of Medical Science, that's SCIOMS, and WHO, covered areas of international guidelines for biomedical research involving human subjects. The ICH Guidelines for Good Clinical Practice, ICH Harmonized Tripartite Guideline, that came up there. WHO then also came up with other guidelines that include operational guidelines for ethics committee that review biomedical research. And then we had the United Nations Educational and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, which covered areas like Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights. So all these, we take all this into consideration when we do our ethical, policies and terms of reference, etc., when it comes to ethics. Now the Nuremberg Code, Helsinki, Belmont Guidelines provided foundation of more ethical uniformity to all these provided guidelines, so that governments in different countries came up with their policies actually based on all those guidelines. Okay, so we go on to the next slide, which is data management, which is very important once you collect data, and when you collect data, how you go about doing it. Data management with respect to research ethics references three issues: the ethical and truthful collection of reliable data, the ownership and responsibility of collected data, and finally, retaining data and sharing access to collected data with colleagues and the public, as we all know. Oftentimes what happens, research will downplay the importance of data management because the details can be time-consuming and they assume they can figure it out as they go along. It is not adequate research practice to assume issues involved in data collection will work themselves out in their own. Instead, a clear, responsible, ethical, sound, and carefully outlined plan for data management is required at the beginning of the research to prevent all manners of conflicts and inappropriate research methods. Ethical data collection refers to collecting data in a way that does not harm or injure someone. Harm and injury could range from outright physical injury to harmful disclosure of unprotected confidential health information. In comparison, truthful data collection refers to data that once collected are not manipulated or altered in any way that might impact or falsely influence results. This is very important. Let's see, I think I skipped a slide. Is it my data management? Okay. Assigning and ensuring responsible for collecting and maintaining data is one of the most important ethical considerations when conducting a research project. Responsibilities include the following issues: oversight of the design and the method of collecting data, protecting research participants from harm, securing and storing data safely to preserve the integrity and privacy of data, delegating work with data to others, and responsibility over the work of others. This actually, you know, when you actually send your results to statisticians, etc. So this refers to those as well. Responsible use of data and truthful portrayal of data results. Okay, this is all under data management. Researchers must accurately identify answers to the following questions to resolve and address all data management issues in a timely manner. The first question one should answer is, who is in charge of the data? Usually this is a person, the principal investigator of the research project, and is responsible for data collection, design, and physical data collection as well. Another question that one should answer, which is very important, is how will data be collected? In other words, will the data be collected via phone, mail, personal interview, existing records, secondary data, etc.? Another question, will they be identifying information with the data, within the data? If yes, why? Sometimes you need it. How will this be rectified? And if not, then you must know how you will rectify this. Must explain everything in your proposal. Another thing is, how will data be stored and what privacy and protection issues will result from the method of storage? In other words, will it be stored electronically, on paper, as raw tissue samples, etc.? Anyway, which other way? Another question is, who will ensure that no data were excluded from the final results and ensure accuracy of result interpretation? Another question that you need to answer is, how long after the project is over will data be kept? In other words, most of the time this will depend on the source of funding and organizational policies. Okay. If I'm going too fast, please let me know so I can slow down, but it's all on the slide. Okay. Research misconduct, let's go to that. Research misconduct is defined as fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research, or in reporting research results. Fabrication is making up data or results and recording or reporting them. Falsification is manipulating research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data of results such that the research is not accurately represented in the research record. Plagiarism is the appropriation of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credit. Research misconduct, however, does not include honest error or differences of opinion. That's important to note. Research misconduct can be the result of criminal behavior. For example, making up research data that doesn't exist, and other overt acts of fraud are research deliberate and punishable criminal acts. Research misconduct can also be the result of mistaken, negligent, unintelligent, lazy, or sloppy research practices. These types of misconduct are usually covered by institutional policies and are punishable at the institutional level. Example, the IRB, Institute Research Board. I mean, Research Ethics Board or Institute Research Board. What should people do if they are suspected of having committing research misconduct? Firstly, a person suspecting a scientist of research misconduct should report the incident to a research integrity officer, who should immediately look into the allegation to assess if it is both research misconduct and within the jurisdiction of the research institution. Secondly, the person who informs the research integrity officer of suspected misconduct, that is the whistleblower, should be treated with fairness and respect by the research institution, and efforts should be made to protect their job and reputation as necessary. Now, the person suspected of research misconduct, the respondent, should be protected and treated with fairness and respect by the research institution. The research integrity officer should strive to maintain the confidentiality of both the whistleblower and the respondent, because the investigation will still carry on. If the misconduct issue is a criminal one or exceeds the jurisdiction of the research institution, the research integrity officer should report the misconduct allegations to the proper authorities or agencies. Right, the next, so research with animals. I won't go very deep into it, but just you need to know if you are involved doing research with animals, it's important issues to consider. Animals play a significant role in research. They are used in a variety of ways by researchers, such as for testing new pharmaceuticals, as teaching tools for medical students, and as experimental subjects for new surgical procedures. Research with animals is necessary and vital to biomedical research, because animal research is frequently a necessary first step towards research involving new medical treatments and pharmaceuticals intended for human use. Many dedicated organizations and individuals are interested in protecting and safeguarding animal subjects as regards their use in research. This is current. Some organizations are interested in eliminating the use of animals in research. Others consider research with animals a necessary evil to the advancements of medicine, but still aim to eliminate unnecessary suffering, pain, and poor facility conditions for animal subjects. Now, to protect animals, research projects that use animals have to be reviewed. These review processes assess the risks and benefits of using animals in research. They can prove difficult for project reviewers and often makes for intense debates and arguments about the appropriate use for animal subjects, particularly because the animal subjects usually bear all the risks, while the human beings realize all the benefits. Debates also center on judging how much pain is too much, whether or not animals experience pain in the same way that humans do, and whether or not these ideas should even factor into the debate at all. So there's lots of things to consider with animal research. To assure that research with animals is conducted ethically and responsibly, the government has created regulations involving the use and care of animals involved in teaching, testing, and research. Now, this is where we want to spend more time with, is research with human subjects. The issues concerning research with human participants involves topics ranging from voluntary participation in research to fair selection and justice, which we went through. We did the Nuremberg Code, we went through all this, okay? but we still use those in our ethics, ethical, making sure that our proposals are ethically sound. And you've got a list of international ethical guidelines, which we did go over, but you can, it's clearly mentioned again, which is very important with human subjects. Firstly, ethical justification and scientific validity of the research must be there. It should go by the ethical review committee. Individual informed consent must be obtained. This is where we're using human participants. Providing essential information, make sure that all information that you're required to provide must be in the informed consent document. Obligation of sponsors and investigators must be included. Any inducement to participate must be mentioned. There should be no inducement. Benefits and risks to participants must be mentioned. You must indicate whether you are using vulnerable populations. When we mean by vulnerable populations, we're referring to mentally and physically challenged individuals, children, women, soldiers, subordinates like students, employees, orphans, and critically ill participants. Also, another guideline is very important, is refers to researchers in research in populations with limited resources. If you use them, you must make sure that you abide by all ethical guidelines referred to them. With regard to informed consent, which is very important, informed consent in any research, if using participants, informed consent exists to ensure that all research involving human allows for voluntary participation by subjects who understand what participation entails. Right, but we'll go more deeply into this. We'll discuss what the letter of information should have. On the right-hand side of my screen, you can see an example of an informed consent document. It states clearly what should be included in the consent document before the participant or the person signs. We also have witnesses that sign. You could have witnesses as well. But if you read it, it says I have read the information sheet and have had details of the study. Explained to me, my questions have been answered to my satisfaction. I may ask further questions at any time. I understand I have the right to withdraw from the study at any time and decline to answer any particular questions. I agree to provide information to the researchers on the understanding that my name will not be used without my permission. I agree or do not agree to the interview being recorded electronically. I understand that I have the right to ask for the tape to be turned off at any time during the interview. I agree to participate in the study under the conditions set out in the information sheet. So this is just a guide, an example, which can be used, but we do include most of these points in our informed consent document. Now, informed consent, to summarize, means that people approached and asked to participate in a research study must, what they are getting involved in would be involved with before they commit themselves. They must not be coerced or manipulated any way to participate, and they must consent to participate in the project as a subject. In other words, they'll sign the informed consent. Now, the Belmont Report 1979 outlines the 3 requirements for informed consent. Remember, we went through this, but we'll go through it again. Information disclosed to the research must include research procedure, their purposes, risks, and anticipated benefits, alternative procedures where therapy is involved, and a statement offering the subject the opportunity to ask questions and to withdraw at any time from the research. Now, the second requirement is also in the Belmont Report. The second requirement for informed consent is comprehension. The concept of comprehension requires research to adapt information to be understandable to every participant. This requires taking into consideration different abilities, intelligence levels, maturity, and language needs. The third one is voluntariness, and informed consent can be neither Informed consent can be neither coerced nor improperly pressured from any person. It shouldn't, you mustn't force anyone to participate. They must be voluntary, okay? The next slide is privacy and confidentiality. Privacy and confidentiality are very important components for research involving human subjects. People have a right to protect themselves, and information gathered during research participation could harm a person by violating their right to keep information about themselves private. That's very important. The information gathered from people in biomedical studies has a unique potential to be particularly embarrassing, harmful, or damaging, because you could do some, very sensitive, highly sensitive studies, and could be embarrassing with the questions that you might ask. It could be harmful with the experimental investigation that you want to conduct, or it could be damaging to the person's reputation. Risk, benefit, and beneficence. Biomedical research, it means good, right? Doing good. Biomedical research strives to do good by studying diseases and health data to uncover information that may be used to help others through the discovery of therapies that improve the lives of people. Researchers must never subject research participants to more risk than necessary. They must be prepared to cease research if it is causing any harm, and never put participants at a level of risk disproportionate to the anticipated benefits. Justice. Particular interest has been paid lately to preventing overburdening of some populations in order to apply research findings to other groups. Populations under consideration with particular potential for exploitation may include the following: minority groups, women, mentally impaired individuals, children, financially disadvantaged individuals, disadvantaged people living in third world countries, prisoners, the deceased, employees, could be students as well. Ethical considerations, this is where we need to spend some time on. Guidelines for the use of human participants in research are clearly recent. Remember we said World War II, and we had all the other guidelines coming up thereafter. With the first modern and formal efforts to protect human parts coming after World War II, we said, since that time, each set of regulations intentionally adopted principles concerning research with human participants consider the following issues to be of tantamount concern. Firstly, human participants must voluntarily consent to research and be allowed to discontinue participation at any time. See, these things are stressed in any ethical guidelines that you have in any institutions. Research involving human participants must be valuable to society and provide a reasonably expected benefit proportionate to the burden requested of the research participant. Remember, we discussed the benefit-risk ratio. Benefit must be more than the risk. The research participants must be protected and safe. No research is more valuable than human well-being and human life. Researchers must avoid harm, injury, and death of research participants, and discontinue research that might cause harm, injury, or death. Research must be conducted by responsible and qualified researchers. No population of people can be excluded from the research or unfairly burdened unless there is an overwhelming reason to do so. Now, the way the government assures that research involving human participants is conducted ethically is through the use of oversight by institutional review boards or ethics committees housed within research institutions across the country. That applies everywhere throughout the world. Okay. The mission of the IRB is to review research proposals in which there are human participants to ensure ethical research that balances potential risks to the participants with anticipated benefits, offers protection to participants from unnecessary harm, offers proportional compensation to participants. The person in charge of the research is a qualified scientist. informed consent and other forms are readable, understandable, and ensure voluntary participation. When you talk about the C, there offers proportional compensation to participants. Now, in medical research, you might find that you have a control group and an experimental group. And what the experiment group had some kind of a medication which helped them. So what you would do, you would provide that same medication free of charge to the control group thereafter, after the study is over. That's one of the examples, okay? Now, the composition of institution review boards or RECs, research ethical committees, they should have a representative and reflective of somebody from the community serving in that ethics committee. They should have a member, they should comprise of at least 9 members and 60% forming a quorum. Include members of both genders, important to include members of both genders, and one gender should not be more than 70% of the other. There should be 2 lay persons, not affiliated with the institute, not involved in medical legal work, and not from the community. 1 member with knowledge of current experience in research areas regularly considered for research. In other words, they should have the research expertise in that field. 1 member with professional training in quantitative and qualitative research methodology, could be a statistician. 1 member with knowledge of current experience in professional care and counseling. This could include a GP, a psychologist, social worker, nurse, etc. And a member with legal training, for example, lawyer, advocate, or human rights person. Now, the categories of research proposals, there are different categories. The category 1 doesn't come to a review board, okay, because usually it's already in the public domain and you're doing some collecting data from there. So that doesn't come to an ethics committee for review. Then we have the second category, which is category 2, which is of minimal risk. What we mean by minimal risk is that the probability and magnitude of the harm or discomfort to be experienced in the research will not be greater than those experienced ordinarily encountered in daily life, okay, with the participants. Participants won't have any more danger or any harm that they normally would encounter in their normal life. Now, the expedited review could be retrospective study concerning charge reviews, all right? It could be prospective audits of standard therapy. It could be routine databases that you're using. It could be questionnaires. And it could be, now that we have COVID-19, something of public interest, which could be fatal, contagious, or infectious, okay? So that can be expedited because even COVID-19, a lot of time the reviews are expedited because of the importance of the study. We need the results urgently, and it's expedited review. We normally have reviewers that are appointed to review the proposals, and once they reviewed, it goes back. The comments are provided, the feedback comments are provided to the researcher as quick as possible. Full review means it's, we got the examples when we're doing clinical trials, which are potentially harmful, namely physical or psychological. They are of highly sensitive nature. Personal and cultural issues are part of it, of the research. And it also involves vulnerable populations or communities. And we discussed what vulnerable is. And when it's full review, the full review category 3 proposals normally serve at the full committee, the IRB or REC committee, or Research Ethics Committee. So it actually serves there because of its nature. Now, the guidelines for a successful ethical review, in other words, what you should have in your proposal if you want it to go through, quickly, so that you don't have too many comments, and it serves. You are provided feedback quickly. Make sure that your proposal is completed. And if you do have some institutions do have ethics checklist, if you do have, make sure it's completed. If not, if applicable, you do that. Otherwise, a proposal must be done as we went through all what it should contain. We will go through that again, just in detail to say what you should have. It should have a participant information letter if you are recruiting participants. It should have participant consent form. It should have a data collection tool, example questionnaire, or interview guide or schedule. If you're using qualitative study, list of questions to be asked, if applicable. It should have letters from the researcher respective. In other words, there should be some letter there that we would look to see requesting gatekeeper permission so that you could conduct the research. And there should be, if you are going to use an advert, make sure it's also attached, okay? Because you want to see how you word the advert as well. Now the proposal, make sure that the proposal has all the signatures required. Also, the methodology is in depth, in detail, so that we can, the ethics committee can make an informed decision. The research population and sample must be clearly explained. The inclusion and exclusion criteria must be clearly stated. The recruitment process to be clearly explained. How will potential participants be approached to participate? That's very important. The process of obtaining informed consent must be clearly described. The sampling method or technique must be clearly stated. The data collection procedure must be clearly explained. Include, if applicable, the dissemination and retrieval of questionnaires and the application of measurement tools, how will they be collected, etc., how would you collect data, etc. Provide a detailed explanation what will be required of recruited participants. That's important because we look at that very carefully. Describe who the gatekeepers are and how permission from such gatekeepers will be obtained. Also describe how participants' identity will be protected. Explain the way in which confidentiality and anonymity will be ensured. Explain how data will be analyzed, and also explain how the data will be stored and for how long, etc., and when will it be disposed of and how will it be disposed of. All that must be included in the proposal so that you don't have a delay in your review process. The information letter is very important, what you include in the information letter to the participants. Firstly, you must have a friendly greeting. Secondly, have the title of your study. Also have who the research, your name and your qualification, so they know that you're qualified to do the research. Have the name of the supervisor as well and his qualifications. Also include brief introduction and purpose of the study. Outline the procedure in detail, where the study will take place, when, how, who, and what. Also, the risks and discomforts to participants must be mentioned. If there is any risk or if there is any discomfort, make sure you mention it and state how you will, what will be the process that will follow, who you're going to refer them to, etc. Explain the benefits if there's any, reasons why participants may be withdrawn or withdraw themselves from the study. They could have a section of remuneration of participants if you have remuneration. If none, state so, and if there is, in other words, sometimes you might give them something. Like if they're coming from far away, maybe they will get transport allowance, or maybe they'll get some refreshments, etc., etc. Cost of the study to the participants must be mentioned. If there is no cost, you mention it. If there is a cost, mention it, and make sure you elaborate as to why there is a cost. Confidentiality, how will it be maintained? Make sure you mention it. If responses are anonymous, then say so and how it will be remain anonymous. The research-related injury, if there is any, make sure you mention it, and also mention what will be done about it. The data storage and disposal must be clear in your letter of information so that the participant will know what happens to the data. The persons to contact if problems arises or queries, if they have any queries, who they should consult. Other general points that you should consider, is the language style. The word choice must be appropriate for the target population. It must be written in the first person, okay? You mention as I will give you this and I and you, okay? You will have the opportunity to ask a question. Participants must be assured that participation is voluntary. Participants must be assured that they can withdraw from the study at any stage, should they wish to do so, without providing a reason and without their withdrawal impacting negatively on them in any way. It should be translated into the dominant language spoken by the research population. If illiterate participants are to be recruited, space for a thumbprint should be provided, as well as a space for literate observer known to the participant to verify that informed verbal consent was obtained. If there is more than one research group, then individual letters for each research group must be included. Another thing to consider, you have minors and assent, okay? Just a few definitions before we go on to what we require. Adolescent means a child between the ages of 12 and 17 years of age. Minor means a person or a child less than 18 years of age, right? That is, if the children at 38 of 2000 said 17, right, and lower. Assent means a minor's affirmative agreement to participate in research. Mere failure to object should not be interpreted as assent. The participation of both minors and adolescents requires, this is important. Firstly, they should have permission in writing from the parents or legal guardian for the minor to be approached and invited to participate according to the Child's Act of 38. And assent from the minor in writing, in other words, agreement to participate if he or she chooses to participate, must be obtained. Parental permission and minor's decision must be consistent. That is, the minor decides not to participate, the parent cannot override this decision, okay? So this is very, very important. This must be done if you are using minors in the study. Another important aspect which is important is use of students as research participants. Universities provide investigators with a ready pool of research participants, namely students. We all have this. The REC pays special attention to the potential for coercion, undue influence, power disparities, in other words, the lecturer and the student. Selection student participation is fair. The selecting student participant must be fair. They look at if the participation is voluntary, and all information regarding the research must be provided accurately in the letter of information for the student to make an informed decision, okay? These are looked at very, very carefully with the IRB. Data collection tools. The questionnaires to be used, we've said already, must be attached to for review. Interview guides, interview guides or the interview schedule. The list of questions to be asked in interviews or focus groups must be attached. If an existing questionnaire is to be used, very important, permission from the original author must be obtained. Okay. What is important is we are faced with this now, the COVID-19 pandemic. With respect to all research protocols that require community engagement, students, patients, healthcare workers, rural and urban communities, etc., all researchers and supervisors must be familiar with the following: the COVID-19 Infection Prevention and Control Guidelines, the Disaster Management Act relating to COVID-19, and also make sure that all adverse events in any IREC approved study, including COVID-19, infections of researchers and research participants, research staff or related parties must be reported to the Research Ethics Committee within 7 days or less of occurrence on the standard REC safety or adverse events report. My last slide, I'd like to just finish up by saying that people still, participants, supervisors, researchers outside still feel that the ethics committees are, just a hindrance to research. They are the ones that cause a time delay and slow turnaround time. And they cause an impediment to research. They are incompetent and bureaucratic. They're not qualified to review outside their field of expertise. They discourage creative and innovative and provocative research. They value quantitative research over qualitative research. And this is absolutely not true. We are there to actually guide and see that all the ethical issues are covered in the proposal. And thank you so much. If there is any questions, I can answer them. Thank you. Let's see. Where am I?
Hello, Tiwari.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, I can. Yes, sorry, I've finished my presentation. Yes, Prof.
Actually, the other organizing secretaries, they did not join, madam. I'm just calling them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Casey, you are there, Casey?
I'm here, sir.
Just no, because they did not join. That's why I'm. You just ask for some questions. In the question, participants may post questions and questions. No, in the questions and answers, madam can answer them. There are some questions, right. Casey. In some questions,
Yes,
questions and answer. You can read out one by one, no, to madam.
Yeah. There are
I'll try my best to answer them. I think it's there on the chat, but you can just read it out, so it makes it easier.
Yes, he's reading, madam.
There are two open questions. The first one is, should be included ethic research in graduation period as a maker of students? That is the first one. So I would like to answer first, or shall I continue reading the other questions, sir?
The madam can answer, no? Madam, are you clear with that question? Madam?
Hello?
Madam? Madam,
I'm mute. Sorry, I was mute. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry. What you can do is, if you can please repeat the question.
Okay, let me read out. There are two questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, should be included ethic research in graduation period as a maker of student? That is the first one. So that means is necessary to do ethical research in graduation level. And the second one is, what is the normal duration time taken to clear ethical review? So
okay, okay, I'll answer that question. It's fine. It's not a, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes,
the
madam.
First one is, if you're doing postgraduate studies, even undergraduate studies, like say Bachelor of Health Science, like 4-year degree course. If you're doing any research involving humans or any humans, it has to go for an ethical review, whether for qualification purposes as well. Okay? For qualification, right? That's one. Secondly, the turnaround time. We, in our ethics committee, it should be around 2 weeks, but in our ethics committee, I've given them in my standard operating procedures 5 working days. They must, for expedited review, right? In other words, category 2 proposals. So the reviewers, we get 2 reviewers to review the proposals, and they are given 2 working days to review the proposal, 5 working days to review the proposal and provide the feedback to me or the deputy chair of the committee. And then we look at the reviewers' comments and we look at if they covered everything and that, and we send it immediately to our administrator, and she collates both the reviewers' reports and she sends it back within 2 weeks. Okay,
All right.
so we don't delay any student.
Okay. So shall I continue?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, next question.
Okay, another question, because the question has been popping. So the other one is due to UGC restrictions. I don't know if this is your concern or not. Due to UGC restrictions, research publications become grim. Can we expect restriction from UGC to publicize the research paper hassle-free? So I don't know if this is your purview or not.
Now, let me just see. Let me see if I can see the chat. Maybe question and answers. I just want to see if I can. This triangle? No, no, where is it? Maybe it's the bottom. I just want to see if I can actually see it as well. Is it on the chat, huh?
Yes.
Actually, questions and answers, madam. Due to,
Yeah, I'm looking
I
at
repeat the question.
answers, but is it on the top? Which things have you kept in mind when you publish? Not that, eh?
No, it is actually law, due to UGC restrictions, research publications becomes grim. Can we accept relaxation from UGC to publish the research papers hassle fees? Actually, this is concerned with our University Grants Commission in India. Actually, they have put a lot of restrictions for publications. So that's what
No,
actually.
Oh, that's why they're asking this question. What we do, we have, it has to go to ethics clearance, obviously. Once they got ethics clearance, they got a certificate. And they do provide that certificate, ethics clearance number, they have a number, and that is actually sent to the publishers. So they would know that it's gone through an ethical review. So it doesn't take, so they know it's done. Is it that question? No? What do they do? What happens to publications? They just repeat that question again?
Actually, that maybe I think they put a lot of restrictions for publication in paid journals, and that is those journals which takes money, and they are actually putting a lot of restrictions, and only to publish in UGC University Grants Commission recognized journals. That's the
so that's the internal range.
that is in India. There are many restrictions for publication. That is the question concerned with that. I think it is actually that is public relaxation. It will be only basing on the UGC approval. That is from there are three careless journals, category A, B, and C. So the person who asked that particular question, Radhakrishnan, has to understand that the UGC has got a time-to-time assessment of the journals and the quality of the journals. Basing on the UGC assessment, only they will be identifying the journals. So those journals only are approved by the UGC for publication and appointment purpose, and even for fellowship and other preferential purpose. I think this question is answered. You can go to another question, Casey. Or Tiwari.
Thank you so much. Thank you, because we also have that, because there are some fake journals and we are not allowed to publish in those ones. And we get a list every year of the accredited journals. And we only allowed to publish in accredited journals. And usually what we do is we try to look at the high impact journals and publish there first and see whether it get approved or not, if it's accepted. If it's not accepted, then we go to lower down. We look at the impact factor.
Yes,
okay, thank you.
Madam, thank you, madam. Casey, you go for the top, no? Top to bottom, you can come. There are top, no, you just go for scroll out the questions and answer. From top to bottom, you can come.
Yeah, can I continue?
Yes, you can. Thank you. Thank you.
Either you or Tiwari can continue. Tiwari also joined. Both of you can continue.
Okay. I think
continue. Yeah, please continue. Please continue. No problem. Here we have some net problem, internet problem. So, yeah, please go ahead.
I'll continue this one. Is there any process to educate human subjects about their rights? If human subjects withdraw from the research trials, are they going to face any trouble in their treatments? If that occurs due to clinical trials, what will be the consequences?
Okay, with the, can I just answer? Okay, with the humans, when you use humans, you have to tell them exactly what the research is about in their simple language, in the language that they'll understand. They must know exactly what they're getting involved in, and they got the right to refuse to participate. We said that. But they need also, if it's a clinical trial, because now we're also talking about a clinical trial here, right? If it's a clinical trial, it has to go through a clinical, you know, we got the government has a clinical trial registry, and they actually, all clinical trials have to go to the government to see, you know, in that it has to be registered as a clinical trial. It has to. So I'm sure you got the same system. It has to be registered as a clinical trial. Otherwise, you cannot, you know, carry out that study, that project.
All right. I think it's clear. Go ahead.
Okay, next question.
Next question, difference between research methodology and hypothesis.
Yeah. Hypothesis is just hypothesizing. Research methodology is detailed research methods that you would use in a study. Hypothesis is you're going to answer that question after you get your results, your findings, and you will see whether your hypothesis is correct or not. I think that's what, I'm not sure what they meant by hypothesis and method. It is different.
Yeah. May I supplement?
Yes.
Yeah, we may say like research methodology is a procedure, but hypothesis is an assumption only. So I think that is a simple answer.
Yeah.
So next question would be, what about ethical research and culture aspect?
That's very, yeah, well, we went through that. Remember I said with the ethical and cultural aspect, some people with their culture might not, because of their culture, they cannot participate. You have to accept their culture. You have to, whatever their cultural beliefs are, you got to accept that. That's over, that's the priority compared to the research itself, right? If they are not willing because they're cultural, we have to, no matter which research it is, we have to accept that the cultural beliefs overrides their, sometimes, you know, it's difficult because sometimes treatment is, you know, if it's a medical research, it's different. You got to consider that as well. But the cultural aspects it overtakes the research itself.
I see. Okay, next question. Could you give an idea about chapterization in research, in which literature review be placed? I don't know this is clear or not. About chapterization, can you give an idea about chapterization in research? Chapterization
in your write-up. This is to write up, right? Okay. What we do is for chapter here, with each institution will have their guidelines. Okay. So they'll have a guideline as to what the chapter should be involved in. You're writing up. This is how you should lay it out. You should have a title. You should have acknowledgement. You should have your, you know, you must have this first title. Then you'll have the supervisor's name, the researcher supervisor. They sign also. Then you'll have acknowledgements. Then you'll have acknowledging all the people that you would like to acknowledge. And then you'll have your abstract. You'll have your table of contents. You know, these are preliminary pages that you will have. Preliminary pages to the actual research itself. You'll have a table of where maybe you have formulas that you use. You could have that in that preliminary pages. You'll have the figure table, you know, the table and figures, list of tables, list of figures, list of whatever you used that you would have there in the initial pages. But there's an abstract as well. In other words, a summary of your whole study. So the person that would want to read your thesis would look at the summary first and see whether they would like to read it or not, your dissertation. You know, that gives them an informed decision. Then the chapters will follow. After you have your contents page, etc., what pages they are, then you'll have your contents page. The first one will be your introduction, chapter 1 introduction, chapter 2 will be your methodology. I'm just saying very broadly, you can have more, right? I mean, literature review, sorry. Chapter 1 is introduction, chapter 2 will be a literature review. Introduction is of introducing the topic, why you chose it, why you're doing this, the importance of it, etc., etc. Then you'll have your literature review, chapter 2, and then you'll have chapter 3 as your methodology. And then you'll have your chapter 4. Chapter 4 will then come in with your results section. You might have more, right? Literature review could be 2 different chapters if you got a lot more to add, different aspects of it. You can have your methodology, then you have your results, then you have your conclusion. Okay, but before the conclusion, you could have, well, discussion, results, discussion, conclusion, right? I just gave you very broadly, and then you'll have your references. You can have recommendations, conclusion, and recommendations. That all comes in, okay? Is that what you wanted to know? Yeah. But you see, our summary comes in first, the abstract. Abstract comes first.
Right. So next question. Methods of online for research.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear.
Please say if you.
I still can't hear. Why is it breaking up? I can't hear at all.
Hello?
Yes, carry on.
Oh, hello?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, methods of online data. Methods of online data collection. Can you just briefly highlight how to collect data online mode? Online mode.
Okay. Online mode data collection. You can, now with our COVID-19 that we're experiencing, and when we talk about online mode, there's different ways of online mode. When we talk about online mode is when you want to do qualitative study, you want to interview participants. You can do it under like how we're doing now, okay? You can individually interview people. You can interview people that video like and record it, etc., etc. Or you can have questionnaires that you can send online. Okay, so a lot of our study now are going online questionnaires where people were supposed to go to the site and distribute questionnaires. Now, because of the pandemic, they are changing to online questionnaire. And with online questionnaire, right there, you could have, if they wish to participate, they will sign to say they party and carry on with the questionnaire. But if they don't, then they don't, obviously they're not going to be answering. So online questionnaire is fine depending on the situation and depending on who you're targeting. Okay.
All right. So okay, let me continue the next question. Using our own blood to examine the biocompatibility of synthesis nanoparticles is ethically allowed? If not, is there any possibility to get permission? Hello?
Yes, I still can't hear. I'm going closer to my internet. I'm not sure whether yours is not clear or mine is not clear because I can't hear at all. Let me go, but I'm sure it's yours. I don't think it's mine. Okay, can you repeat that? I'm going closer to my device.
Okay. Using own blood to examine the biocompatibility of synthesis nanoparticles is ethically allowed or not? If not, is there any possibility to get permission for this?
Okay, all right, is it only mine where I can't hear, or is everybody's having this problem? Sorry, can others answer this question? I can't hear. Sorry?
There is some problem, madam. Yeah, in internet, there is some problem from our side also.
Because I can hear you. I can hear, maybe somebody else can repeat the question.
Okay. So I have just one question, madam. That
yes.
If a person wants to publish his doctoral work as a book, so what kind of important things are there which one should take care if we want to publish doctoral work as a book?
Okay. With a doctoral work, if he wants to publish as a book, it's fine because it's up to him. He wants to publish a book, not just as an article, but usually what we do doctoral theses, we do a couple publications. We do about 3 or 4 publications you can get out of it, all right? That's one. You know why? You can get different because you do different aspects. So it's better to do more publications than doing a book because you can do the book afterwards. The book takes longer to publish. So I would recommend do about 3 or 4 publications. Why not? You can get that quicker out, different aspects of the study. That's a recommendation. A book, yes, you can publish that thereafter, but rounding it and adding other aspects to it. But there's nothing wrong in publishing a book. There's nothing wrong at all. Okay.
Okay, madam. Thank you so much, madam. So before I go for the formal vote of thanks, I would like to thank my colleague also, Professor S.K. Mehta and Pukesi, who was joining in this program. And I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, who is motivating us and who is giving all the support and who is himself very much active. And that is how we have been able to organize so many webinars and other programs online, and is still going on, many more to come. And a special thanks to madam that you have spared your very valuable time and shared your thoughts, which are of very useful to all our participants and to all of us also, where we have the ethical committee and so on. So many information which is there, which is shared by you, is going to be very useful for us also. So madam, you have kindly agreed, and you have given us a lots of information, a range of information, and all the participants have been very interested in the lecture, because I could see lots of comments from the participants. So they have found it very interesting, and they are giving lots of appreciation of the lecture, madam. So thank you once again. Thank you so much, madam. And thanks to all the participants.
Thank you so much for being there and for listening. And I hope I didn't go too fast, because because the presentation is there, and I tend to go a little faster because it's a repetition, a lot of repetition. And that's ethics. It always happens with ethics. Ethical issues, a lot of repetition and that kind of thing. But I hope people understood what I did. And the presentation is there. They can make use of it. And if they need to contact me, they got my email address, and I'm always there for you. Okay, thank you so much, Professor Rao.
And madam, special thanks, because you permitted us to use the YouTube and so on, so that everyone doesn't permit. So special thanks to you for that, madam. Thank you so much.
That's no problem. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks.